Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Network Hour podcast. Top of the morning to you. It's an early morning. I'm here in the United States and it's raining outside, but I'm so glad to be here with my special guest today. Today, I have a special guest with me. Her name is Quincy Molope. Hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. And we are so excited to have her here today. Quincy is a career and interview coach, and she is the founder of Hello Coach K and co founder of Obakosmosa Foundation. She's going to correct me when she talks about that. And she is also from South Africa. I am so happy to have you here, Quincy. Let's talk to our listeners. Tell them a little bit more about you.
Thank you so much for having me, Molly. I really always appreciate any opportunity to have these kind of conversations. I think they're so important to have. So welcome to your listeners as well, whoever's watching at home who'll be watching this. You almost got my surname right, actually. So my name is Quincy Molope. And my foundation is called Obokamoso, and it means you are the future in my mother tongue. But yeah, so you actually like hit it all kind of on the head. I am a career coach now. I didn't always used to be. I started off my career in corporate. I've been specializing in continuous improvement, business analysis. So basically process efficiency and optimization. I'm looking at a process and getting it better, like making it better. And I was not really feeling fulfilled in that corporate role. So for 4 years before I actually quit my corporate role to do my career coaching, like permanently full time, I was actually doing career coaching on the side. So the transition from my corporate role to the career coaching one wasn't like a sudden one or anything like that. But it was really freeing and fulfilling. And my focus really is on African graduates and young professionals. So I'm trying to create a platform, I'm trying to create resources where they can go to and find corporate specific information for their environment. That makes sense. I mean, we all love Google, but if you try to Google any kind of information for South Africa or for Africa, it's really difficult to do. A general search is going to give us statistics from like the American environment or the UK environment, which is cool, but it doesn't necessarily always apply to us. So I'm trying to give relevant and accurate information on the career journey, but also to be their guide through it, because we know that, and that's what we're here to talk about today, that there is a gap between the reality and the expectation. And that's me in a nutshell.
That is so awesome. So today you mentioned it. Yes, we are going to be talking about a very important topic. I always think this is so important because I remember when I was in grad school or doing my bachelor's, I really needed some guidance and people to tell me how to navigate my way when I graduated and came out of school and all of stuff. And I didn't have those people. A lot of stuff I had to learn by myself and learn the hard way. And so I'm so glad that you're doing this. So today we're going to be talking about expectation versus reality of corporate for recent graduates, which is such a timely topic because we're in a time now where graduation is happening. All of these graduates are coming out and they're looking for jobs in the corporate world. So my first question is to you. Why do you think grads are unprepared when they come out of college to go into that corporate workforce?
I think it's a great question, and I think there are many factors that could possibly, cause that. But I'll try to mention a few of them today here. So I think one, there hasn't been adequate career guidance at that level, and I don't just mean, hey, do an aptitude test, let's figure out what you should be studying. But also, we're not doing, we're not showing them viable career options with the degree that they're studying. And maybe we're also not necessarily getting them ready and showing them the expectations, like what will be expected of them once they start working, how to get into the jobs that they want to get into, and what will be required of them to actually get hired. I think the other thing is we need to be a little bit more deliberate about corporate required skills, because we know those are different, right? At university level, there's a different requirement to you than at a corporate or business level. And I mean deliberate because at varsity, we're not really taught. There isn't like a course or a main course that talks to critical thinking or interpersonal skills, it's all really embedded within the curriculum. It's embedded within the faculty. So if they give you a group assignment, it's like, hey, we've done interpersonal skills. You should know now how to work with people. But it's different when you get into a corporate environment. So I recently actually did an essential soft skills series, and for 4 weeks, we tried to cover just that. At the very least, I wanted to give graduates a fundamental understanding of soft skills that are in demand right now in our corporate environment, but also to create an appetite in them as young people, as young professionals, to want to develop these skills and to understand them. And I think another reason is teaching style. So when you think about the teaching style in university, it's all very like individualistic. I hope that's the right English word. Instead of a collective type of series, right? How you perform is on you. It's all about how am I doing? And corporate environment or business environments are different because it's a community effort. It really is about how the whole works, like how everybody in the whole works together to produce or to meet a common goal. And how well you do academically at a university level isn't necessarily a direct correlation on how well you're going to do in a professional setting. In fact, I didn't do that well in varsity, right? I wasn't an A student in university. I was on a B average, C average, but I did extremely well in corporate because I had developed certain skills and appetites and aptitudes already for that environment. So I think that's another thing that's missing. And lastly, I want to say what else is missing for me is we're not really sharing realities of corporate. I think not even the organizations themselves are being honest with graduates about it. Everybody wants to put up a really beautiful sort of view, right? Everybody wants to be the best organization to come and work for. So when they talk about themselves, they're always talking about themselves in the best possible light because they're trying to attract people. And I think exposure is really important. And that's what I'm also trying to do in that sense, is I think you have to try and get as much of that exposure as possible. There are organizations that do it well, right? They do bring a child to school day. They will maybe do shadowing programs. And I think get on board with that. Try as much as you can to get that kind of exposure. But I think those are the main reasons for me why I think grads are unprepared for corporate.
Yeah, you're so right. And that is going to take me into my other question. Do you think colleges are really preparing the students? Because I remember when I was in undergrad, I went to career services and I got an internship with a company that I really wanted to work for. And I got the internship. The internship was great. They gave me a great review. And then when I was finished with the internship, I did not get an offer, which I was so bummed about because I was like, if I did great, why didn't I get an offer? And then later I found out that that particular company, even though they allowed me to do an internship there, they were only recruiting students from Ivy League colleges, and I did not go to an Ivy League. So I was like, so why did my school hook me up with this company knowing that information? Or did they even know that information at all? So what do you think is the breakdown with these universities and colleges? And should they be demanding companies that when they give students internships, that they should at least have a retention where they retain these students to be a part of their company?
Well, it's interesting that you said that, right? Because I don't know if we can blame colleges for this entire mess that we kind of find ourselves in. I don't think it's just their responsibility when you look at the educational journey of any student, right? Before you even get to a college level, you've gone through 12 years of schooling before that. So I think the issue in the whole is the entire ecosystem. It's in how we educate. We're doing it very traditionally, but also, like you mentioned, it's in the communication and that relationship with the corporates and the colleges and whether or not they should have a relationship. Um, I think it is devastating. It's devastating for anybody to go through an internship and you've worked so hard and you think finally I'm going to get this internship and it's a natural progression. I should just get the job. But I don't know what it's like in the US, but in our environment in my country, that's not a guarantee of a permanent position. A lot of the time, the internship programs are linked to like government subsidies, tax rebates, that kind of thing. So it benefits the organization to keep having like a rolling system of interns that keep coming in and out because nobody's really checking what are you doing with those interns after that, right? But it takes me back to my high school experience. So I took a gap year after high school, and I think that made a huge difference between how I left high school and how I entered college or varsity. That gap year helped me to interact. So I took a gap year. I was in America for about a year, and I was working at Six Flags actually in Chicago. And we were working with different nationalities. We were working with different people of different ages. And I think what that did was it really allowed me to understand just how big the world was, like where I fit into it. But it also helped me develop all of those interpersonal and soft skills that are in demand at that time. So when I got to varsity, I had a different expectation of that experience. I wasn't fighting like the kind of peer pressure that I saw that my friends were, or like my classmates were fighting. I understood what college was supposed to do for me. And I knew that I had to get information, and I had to set myself up before I got to that place. So whether or not corporates and colleges should be speaking, I honestly cannot say. I don't know if they should be, but I do think that it is important not to give graduates like yourself in your position hope, like unnecessary hope. I think it's fair though for universities to link up graduates with internship programs that match their profiles. It makes no sense that you are put into an internship program knowing full well that you don't have the minimum requirements to continue in the process. So I would definitely say that.
Yeah, and while I was doing my research for this topic, I came across some numbers. Accenture was saying 68% of students felt like they were not fully prepared when they got out of college to go into the job market. So, do you think colleges need to add more? Because I'm noticing this, and this is stuff I had to learn on my own when I got out of college. Do you think they need to start adding more professional development and these soft skills that you spoke about to their curriculum? And what are some of these skills?
I think you're absolutely right in that, right? I've seen now colleges in my country, and they fare quite well. They're some of the top 200 universities in the world. And what they're starting to do now, and I wish they had that during my time, they're starting to implement and develop career centers and career units. And from my understanding with those is they're trying to do what we're talking about now. They're trying to close that gap as well, to say, this is what's going to be expected from you at a career level. But mainly it's about trying to align the degree that you're studying for to possible or potential careers. You'll start to see now some of them as well with the perspectives that they upload onto their websites for whatever faculty it is. They're starting to do little diagrams as well that show you that with this degree, these are all the different careers that you can go into. These are all the different industries that you can go into. So in terms of that, I think they've started, and I think it's really lovely that they've started to do that. When it comes to the professional skills that are required, we've mentioned a few of them. It's critical thinking, it's communication skills, right? It's interpersonal skills. How well do you relate with other people? Because that's a big one. When you step into a corporate space, nobody told us this. We didn't know. We had to figure this out on our own. But relationships are everything. How you talk to people is everything. You cannot do your work in a corporate space by yourself. Unlike in varsity where you could do your projects and do your assignments all by yourself and it was fine. In a professional space, you cannot do that. You're relying on other people, you're relying on other departments. Sometimes you're really relying on external stakeholders as well. So how well you are able to communicate and relate with other people is a big determining factor in how successful you're going to be in your career as well. And I think those are the skills that they need to be touching on and talking about. But also I think that they've missed a big part of starting the journey. So a lot of these skills will help you once you're in the system, like once you get there. But we're missing like a crucial link, which is right at the beginning. So once you graduate, what skills do you need to get a job, right? Like nobody really talks about how important your CV is or your LinkedIn profile, your personal brand. Like nobody's telling you how important it is to position yourself. And that's why I take what I do so seriously, because we need to start leveling the playing field, and that's where we do it. If no professional entity, no corporate, no business knows that you exist and knows that you're out there, how can they possibly even reach out to you and give you that job? But then further to that, it's how do we level the playing field, right? Because you mentioned that there's kids that come out of Ivy League schools, and then there's kids that come out of other university centers that are probably just as good. It's just a different sort of privilege, right? It's a different privilege. It doesn't mean you are not capable of doing the same type of work. So if that is the criteria that they're using to place people, then it's completely wrong, and it's unequal. But if we're saying, I'm going to actually go through your CV and I want to see how you present yourself and I want to see the potential that you have to do this job more than anything else, more than the school you were from, then that is key. And I think we're not preparing our graduates enough to start their career journey in the first place.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not know anything about branding myself, or I didn't see the importance of LinkedIn at that time when I was going to school and all of that stuff. So I totally understand. How do graduates prepare themselves if their schools are not doing it? How do they set themselves up? And I think it would be a better to start early while you're in college versus doing it after you get the certificate and leave. So how do they start preparing themselves? What they start need to do?
Yeah, I think that's spot on, right? That's like crucial. And you're right. It's so funny because we'll keep talking about our own personal experiences and whether we were mindful of what we were doing or not. But I worked during varsity, and that was a major deciding factor on how quickly I was able to get work in a professional space, because I didn't have to make up experience. I was waitressing. I was a brand ambassador. So in our country, that's a really big thing. It's that you get students to do promotional work for your company. So I was doing that as well. And I was just busy. I was a busy person, but I was also involved in like extracurricular activity from like a high school place as well. So one of the things that's important that you need to do as a young person while you're in varsity is that you need to be creating your experience. And experience in this sense doesn't mean corporate experience. We're not talking about that, right? We are talking about creating situations and instances where the hiring manager and the recruiter or the company can deduce and determine whether or not you're a good fit for a particular role. And how they'll be able to do that is by seeing, okay, so you've worked as a waitress, what is that? And mention the kind of things that you learned from that. Oh, I worked with people and it was really important that I did this. And for me, my tables, I knew that to get maximum tips, I needed to do this. And that will demonstrate and show like your critical thinking skills. That will demonstrate and show your communication skills and all of the soft skills that you at least can get. Because when you are interviewing as a graduate level, your technical skills are already sort of determined. Nobody's really testing that. Depending on what industry you're in, you've got your degree, they know that you've got the education to back it. But what they now need to see is whether or not you have the capability and the potential to be trained further to do what you need to do. I think then the second thing we've mentioned that is personal branding. And with this, it's so important. I want everybody watching this to Google themselves. Okay, they need to Google themselves and see what search, what results come up, because what you see is what the recruiter is going to see. And already there, they're going to be making some sort of assumptions about you. So make sure that your Google search is like clean and neat. And one way that you can do that is really start getting active on LinkedIn, because that creates like an immediate search. Like if you pop, because LinkedIn is also like the biggest professional social networking. I'm not completely sure about the Google algorithm, obviously, and the SEOs and whatever the case may be. But once you get really active on that platform, it will at least start pulling your LinkedIn profile and not your Twitter and not your Instagram. Like give yourself the best chance to be seen in like a really, really positive light. So your personal branding is a big one, and start networking early. I know you don't have anything to leverage on right now. You're a graduate. You know, you really don't have anything, but you can start sharing and acknowledging and showing your interest in other people. So you can start picking up mentors along the way. You can like message people on LinkedIn and say, hey, Mr. John, you're actually somebody that I've admired for such a long time. I'm doing this course and it's just really exciting to have found your profile on LinkedIn. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to be following you and I'm going to be engaging in your stuff. That's already an immediate connection that you're making, right? And don't be shy to do that too. So LinkedIn, I think, is a really big one because everybody is on LinkedIn. I think they're sitting at over 700 million users right now. And that's where you want to be as a graduate, yeah. But when it comes to once you've landed your first job, so now you've managed this, right? You've gone through the gauntlet, you've done everything you needed to do. Your CV is great, you interviewed, your LinkedIn page is awesome, And now you've got that job, but you don't know what on earth you need to do to succeed, what on earth you need to do for people to know your name in that space. And I think I actually covered this. So I also did a series on this 21 things that you need to do your first 2 weeks on the job as a new graduate, and they can find it on my YouTube channel and listen in on their own time. But it's ultimately about making sure that you're building relationships and that you are learning, that you are actively present in everything that you're doing. And about everything else, I want them to do one thing when they start a new job, is to observe. It's not a race, it's a marathon. Nobody's waiting to hear all the magical, wonderful things and solutions that you're going to bring with your, theoretical knowledge and understanding. You don't know that environment. You have no clue all of the mechanisms that are playing and all the processes in the back. So this isn't the time when you're new to try and come up with solutions. It is your time to learn and observe and then figure out how you can actually add value in that space. So the skill of observation is going to serve you so well during the first 2 weeks, during the first month, during the first 3 months of your new job. And that would be my advice to them.
Oh my God, such awesome tips, Quincy, such awesome tips. And I wanted to reiterate what you said is to really have your LinkedIn profile and your online presence really up to par, because here in the US, employers do look at that. And you also have to be mindful of what you're posting. You're not going to post you at a party drinking and all of that kind of stuff, because unfortunately in corporate, they do look at a lot of these things. And sometimes there are some disparities that happen. Sometimes two candidates can go up for the same job, and if one is from an Ivy League and the other is not, most times the Ivy League will get the job. And then we have those disparities with students of color and all of these things. Do you have any of those that happen as well in South Africa? Because I know it happens here in the United States.
I was talking by myself. I didn't realize I was still muted. But yes, like as you were talking, right, and I was thinking about that as you were, sort of sharing that piece with me, is that the comparison between two candidates at that level is so close, because you're both coming from like the same environment, you're both students. So recruiters and hiring managers are going to find the smallest things to eliminate you. I watch a lot of movies, and we know the police Miranda, right? It says something like, whatever you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. It doesn't say that whatever you say will be used for you. So you have to be so careful about how you're presenting yourself, like you mentioned, your Twitter, your Facebook, what's on there, because if you're running this race and you're so close with somebody else, it might not even matter what university you came to, but like something you posted 6 months ago, right? It might not even be, what area you went to, but possibly something you shared on LinkedIn or whatever the case may be. But when it comes to that as well, we do see this discrepancy. We do see this sort of inequality in our environment as well. For us, our country, we are majority people of color. Our population is majority, it's about 85%, if not more than that, Black people or people of color. So our challenges were really post-apartheid in getting our corporate environments to start hiring and start employing people of color in proper positions, if I can say that, right? Instead of just being the tea ladies or the garden boys or whatever the case may be, but actual knowledge workers and engineers. So we have a integration program, it's called BEE, and that is set to try and equalize that. So we have that opportunity now to come out of school, and because of that, it almost forces corporate organizations to start hiring people of color, to start hiring people from disadvantaged areas. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't necessarily assess where you come from or like what school you went to. So we still have that issue of, if I had a better opportunity to go to a better school than you, I will most likely get the job, whether I'm Black or not. If I had an opportunity to live in a different place than you, I went to a dinner party once, and there was an HR recruiter at this dinner party, and she said something that just blew me away. She said that when she receives CVs, and if the location of a candidate is from a particular township, then she doesn't consider them at all. And this is why I recommend my clients. Sorry, there's an airplane passing by. So I don't know how loud that is, but She said that if she gets CVs from candidates who come from a particular township, which is our previously designated apartheid sections, which were where Black people were sent, Indian people were sent, colored people were sent. So it's still quite considered a disadvantaged place to live. She does not consider their applications at all. And I asked her, I said, but why not? I mean, that's just where they live. And she said, I don't like their attitude. From my time in interviewing, I've done a trend analysis and I've just realized that people who come from there are really difficult to manage. So
Wow.
then you've, yeah, right. So then again, you've got to be thinking about on my CV, I cannot add my location that specifically. I tell my clients, you've got to give a generic city location and not necessarily your suburb, because you don't want that level of bias coming into play. So there are a lot of factors that come into play, but at least I think in our country, I'm not necessarily as a Black person competing with another non-Black person. I'm competing with a person of color that's next to me. And so we really are trying to sort of equal the playing field.
Yeah, we have those same issues in the US as well. And I also tell my clients to the location, to pinpoint your exact locations is not really, it's not that necessary. Another thing too is a, a situation that I see happen here in the US too. And it happened to me personally. I remember coming out of grad school and being so enthusiastic and ready to go in the corporate world and ready to put resumes out there and apply for jobs. And I was not hitting, I was missing. I was missing the mark. I was not scoring anything. And I remember my first job coming out of grad school, I ended up doing working for a retail store, a retail company was doing their bookkeeping, their accounting of some sort. And I was so disappointed in myself. I was like, why did I spend 4 years? Why did I go to school and come out with that degree? And in my research here that I was doing, so many grads come out of school and they don't get the job what in the area of study that they did. And moreover too, sometimes they have to take a job that they don't like, or because they have student loans to pay back for, and all this kinds of stuff. It was saying 51% of grads are underemployed. Even though you're employed, you're underemployed and you're underpaid. So how can grads get over that hump? Or should they just take any job that they get when they come out of college?
Right. Like I relate so much to you. When I graduated, for me, I didn't care about the job that I was my first job. The only thing that mattered to me was I don't want to be employed a year later. I've just spent 4 years in college. I've got this degree, I've worked out, I've got these student loans. So I need to get into the job market as quickly as possible. The only thing that I was mindful of was the industry that I was entering into. So I focused my job search on a particular industry, the financial sector, because that's where I felt like I was going to get a better career journey for the kind of things that I wanted to do. But I know that not everybody sort of thinks like that, right? And I think as a graduate coming out of it, because you have no leverage, number one, and number two, you don't really know what you actually want to do. You don't know what corporate is like. There's so many different departments within one industry, so many different business units that you might think you know what you want to do because you've got an accounting degree, but you might get there and start doing accounting things and realize that actually I don't want to do accounting, I don't want to be a CA, or I don't want to do it this way, I would rather do it another way. So I think get ready and prepare yourself to take any job that you can get at that point in time. A lot of the graduate jobs or entry level jobs will either be internships or there will be entry level departments like operations and contact centers. And for me, I found that I did really well because I had a spirit of gratitude. And this doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're just grateful for the job and oh my gosh, thank you so much for this opportunity. And you know what I mean? It's like, it's not that. It's you have a spirit of gratitude and saying, I know that this is a starting block for me. This is not where my career ends. And so I'm going to take each and every day and I'm going to try my best to get further than where I am now. When I started my first job, I was paid 3,000. I took home 3,000 Rand a month. I think 3,000 Rand is about 200 US dollars a month. That only covered my rent. That's what graduates are going through out there, with their entry level jobs. And I knew, I was like, I'm not going to be in this job for long. I can only be here for maximum 3 months and I need to be out of this position. And so I worked hard. I got noticed. I made sure that my manager understood how well I could do in a more senior position. And I signed my permanent contract within a month and a half. And